Hello fellow train enthusiasts and welcome to the Pennsylvania 421 channel. I have finally graduated from just holding my phone for railfanning and have gotten myself a tripod. Well actually I've had this tripod for a number of years. It actually used to be my grandma's and is one of the only things that younger me decided to take from her house when we cleaned it out after she died. And I haven't used it until now, but I finally got a little phone mount. It's a little flimsy, so it vibrates a bit, but it works. Well, anyways, the first day that I used this tripod for rail fanning was March 10th, and it went okay. Obviously, I'm still new to the tripod and still getting used to using it, so there were some mistakes made. I think it went alright, so without further ado, let's get on with the trains. The first train I ever recorded with the tripod was an eastbound CPKC manifest, which I caught passing the old Sioux station in Minot. Unfortunately, since this was the first time I ever used it, I didn't think to adjust the angle of the platform as I panned, so this happened. In hindsight, I should have skipped trying the tripod for this train. I didn't have enough warning to set up the tripod properly, and to make matters worse, the ground was far from level and quite a bit lower than the track. The next train of the day was also a CPKC, this time a westbound. We had enough warning from the horns to move to a new area to record it. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to set up the tripod for the head end, but it's maybe better that I didn't, because the leader is Canadian Pacific 8876, one of 20 locomotives painted to commemorate the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver. 8876 is the last unit to have the white stripe, making it an extremely rare catch. After the head end went past, I set up the tripod. I think I did a much better job with it here than with the first train. 'Next up is the westbound Amtrak. This is the first time we've ever seen a P-42 on the Empire Builder. Unfortunately, the shot is backlit because we could hear an eastbound approaching and didn't want it to arrive before the Amtrak and block our view. As it turned out, this concern was unfounded because the eastbound didn't arrive until several minutes after the Amtrak passed. "5 minutes later, the eastbound came into view. It is an intermodal that was slowing down to stop. We figured this is because it needed to allow another westbound to pass before it could cross the trestle. This is the first eastbound we've caught at this crossing, and the lighting was perfect. Unfortunately, this morning was rather windy, so there was a slight vibration in the video as a result of the phone shaking in its mount. The train had slowed down a lot by the time the tail end arrived, and we were able to hear the dynamic brake fans working as the DPU slowly came past. After the short drive back to Minot, we parked at the Amtrak station to await another train. A westbound intermodal led by 4 locomotives came by shortly after. I believe this is the train the eastbound was stopping for. Recording the DPU went okay, but I hadn't made sure the tripod is level, so the video gets a bit tilted as I pan with the locomotive. Not long after, the first of at least 2 eastbounds held up by that intermodal slowly rolled past. I had very little warning of this train, so the tripod was again not level and the video is tilted as I panned at the locomotives. The train briefly stopped, probably so switch could be aligned. My friend remarked that this was the most peaceful stop we've ever witnessed. The next train is my favorite catch from that day. It is a grainer led by NS 4025 and AC 44C6M I've seen twice. We caught it first as it switched tracks onto the main line, again by the golf course, and a third time as it climbed towards the lags. After the DPU rumbled past the golf course, we got back in the car and drove out of the valley. To change things up a bit, we went to a crossing a little west of our usual choice spot to set up and wait. The wind from earlier that morning had died down a little, but just to be safe, I parked the car in front of the tripod as a bit of a windbreak.
Ready for a really backlit video?
Yeah. This next catch was a real stroke of luck. I thought I'd heard a crossing sequence, so we checked the eastbound signals. All were red at first, but one of the BNSF signals switched to a green as we were looking at it. We drove to a location of a long-abandoned crossing off the Burdick Expressway to catch the train, which turned out to be an intermodal with a surprise at the back. This is the first time I've ever successfully caught maintenance of way equipment being transported by rail. The sun was starting to dip towards the horizon when we spotted another westbound grainer and drove to a spot I call the Ghost Crossing. According to Street View caption in 2022, this area was a fully functional crossing. Now, the road has been closed, but most trains still blow their horns for it, hence why I call it the Ghost Crossing. finally, the last train of the day was the first CPKC local we've chased out of the city. The first pass was at a crossing near Talbot Park. I didn't want to stand close to the highway, so I set up on the side of the tracks opposite the sun, meaning the train was unfortunately backlit for the first pass. Chasing it down proved very easy, as they were given a yellow signal only a few miles after the first pass, and had to slow down to around 30 miles per hour. We got well ahead of the train and pulled over to catch it a second time not far from Foxholm. For my first time railfanning with a tripod, I think that they went pretty good. There were definitely some mistakes made. Definitely the most difficult part I noticed for me was panning, mainly because adjusting the angle up and down seems to be like really stiff on my tripod, so it's hard to do that, and also move the camera side to side properly. Overall, it's definitely a lot easier to railfan with a tripod, because the tripod will just hold the phone in a fixed place, whereas with my hands I had to try to make sure it stayed stable, and usually didn't succeed. But anyway, that's all I have to say for now, and until next time, goodbye.